Tonight, we're diving into the readings for the Feast of the Epiphany. It's a celebration of discovery and revelation. But instead of focusing on stars and supernatural claims, I'll be asking you one simple question. What's your guiding light? Whether your guiding light is kindness, fairness, or the pursuit of truth, this episode will challenge you to find it, to follow it, and share it in ways that inspire others. So if you've ever wondered how small intentional actions can create a ripple effect that touches lives far beyond your own, you're in the right place. Welcome to Mythologizing the Bible, where we'll be taking a look at the three readings from the Christian Bible through the lens of sacred myth. As we reflect on the readings for the Feast of the Epiphany, we're going to look beyond the traditional Christian narrative to uncover a few lessons that should resonate with all of us, regardless of our religious background or lack thereof. In this episode, we'll explore how the light in Isaiah represents the power of justice and hope, how Paul's message in Ephesians challenges us to embrace inclusivity, and how the story of the Magi invites us to reflect on the values and goals that lead us through life. These readings aren't just ancient stories. They're invitations to think deeply about how we can live with authenticity, purpose, and courage. So grab a comfy seat, a glass of your favorite beverage, and let's look at some ancient stories together in this edition of Mythologizing the Bible, where we'll be exploring the readings for the Feast of the Epiphany, Cycle C of the Roman Catholic Lectionary. In this series, we're exploring readings from the Bible through the lens of sacred myth, looking for interpretations and lessons that don't demand a belief in the supernatural. What that means, from a practical standpoint, is that we will assume that these stories and writings are fiction, written by pre-scientific people who were trying to make sense of the universe. Now, you might agree with the lessons I find, but I encourage you to look for something that rings true to you. Part of the beauty of understanding these writings as sacred myths is that we're free to interpret them for ourselves. We're free to learn the lessons that we need right now. So with that, let's dive in. As I said, tonight we'll be looking at the readings for the Feast of the Epiphany, Cycle C. Our first reading is from Isaiah. It's chapter 60, verses 1 through 6. Our second reading is from Ephesians. It's chapter 3, verses 2 through 3a, and verses 5 and 6. And our gospel reading is from Matthew. It's chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Now, we'll start by going through all three of the readings. Then we'll look for the messages and main lessons in each one. And finally, we'll bring everything together, look at what it means for us today, and talk about where we go from here. And with that, let's begin. Our first reading is from Isaiah. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look about you. All assemble and come to you. Your sons come from afar, and your daughters are carried on the hip. Then you will look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth on the seas will be brought to you. To you the riches of the nations will come. Herds of camels will cover your land, young camels of Midian and Ephah. And all from Sheba will come, bearing gold and incense, and proclaiming the praise of the Lord. Our second reading is from Paul's letter to the Ephesians. Brothers and sisters, surely you have heard about the administration of God's grace that was given to me for you, that is, the mystery made known to me by revelation. It was not made known to people in other generations, as it has now been revealed by the Spirit to God's holy apostles and prophets. This mystery is that through the gospel, the Gentiles are heirs together with Israel, members together of one body, and sharers together in the promise in Jesus Christ. And our gospel reading is from Matthew. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. When he called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. All right, so let's go back and take a bit of a critical look at these readings and see what learnings and lessons we can find if we dig around just a little bit. So our first reading was from Isaiah. And in this reading, the prophet's vision it's a powerful metaphor. It paints a picture of light breaking through darkness and drawing people together. Now, traditionally, this has been interpreted as foreshadowing, the foreshadowing of Jesus as the light of the world, with Jerusalem, or later the Catholic Church, and I guess most other Christian denominations make the claim, but really with Jerusalem believing that it is now the beacon for humanity. But let's set aside the supernatural framing for a moment and focus on what this imagery really means just in human terms. The light seems to symbolize justice and hope, while the darkness represents injustice and despair. This is really a call to action. It's urging us to shine brightly through our commitment to equity and to compassion. When people stand up for what's right, they naturally inspire others to join in. Now, the reading also speaks of abundance, which is symbolized by the gold and camels and riches pouring into Jerusalem. These images might feel distant or even a bit extravagant, but they serve as a reminder of the prosperity that can come when communities unite around the shared values of justice and fairness. It isn't about material wealth. It's not what this is about. It's about the richness of a society that's built on mutual respect and care for one another. That's what Isaiah was getting at. When we choose hope over despair, when we choose justice over apathy, we create an environment where everyone thrives. That's the kind of light people are drawn to, not one rooted in arrogance or condemnation, but in genuine care for all. Of course, it's worth noting that many institutions, including churches, have claimed to be the shining light while failing miserably when it comes to living up to the ideals they preach. Condemnation and arrogance drive people away rather than drawing them in. The real challenge is for individuals and communities to embody the kind of justice and hope that others find inspiring. This isn't about claiming to be a beacon. It's about being one through actions that uplift and empower. By standing courageously for equity and justice, we create a light that cuts through the darkness, offering hope and drawing others toward positive change. So the main lesson I got from our first reading is that the light of justice and hope will ultimately attract everyone. Isaiah's vision reminds us of the transformative power of justice and hope. The light we shine in our lives isn't about claiming superiority or forcing others to follow. It's about embodying values that inspire unity and abundance. When we choose justice, fairness, and hope, we create a better world, one that naturally draws others towards its glow. The light of justice and hope will ultimately attract everyone. Our second reading was from the letter to the Ephesians, and in this reading, St. Paul shares his belief that the gospel message is meant for everyone, not just a select group of people. At its core, the idea of sharing good news with everyone is a universal and admirable principle. But this text also introduces some challenges for those of us who don't hold supernatural beliefs. The claim of divine revelation as the source of this message really doesn't offer a logical or evidence-based reason to trust it. And this has led to some troubling behaviors over time. Instead of inviting others into something good, many people have used similar claims to justify forcing their beliefs onto others. When we strip away the supernatural framing, we uncover a valuable truth. Any message that genuinely inspires hope, builds connection, or improves lives should be freely shared with others. The emphasis on sharing a universal message, it was revolutionary in St. Paul's time, when many believed religious teachings were exclusive to specific groups. Today, the lesson we can draw is that goodness, wisdom, and inspiration belong to everyone, not just to those in one culture or one religion or a specific community. Imagine how much stronger our connections would be if we openly shared those things that uplift and inspire us, without expecting others to agree with every aspect of our worldview or our personal beliefs. A truly good message doesn't need to be forced. It naturally resonates and it naturally spreads when it improves people's lives. This is what makes sharing openly and freely so powerful. Unfortunately, as history has shown, the way messages are shared can make all the difference. When something good is shared freely and without arrogance, it really does have the power to unite. When it's wielded as a weapon to dominate or exclude, it does the opposite. The challenge for all of us is to focus on sharing in a way that's inclusive, welcoming, and respectful. Whether it's knowledge, hope, or wisdom, when we offer it freely and authentically, it becomes a gift that uplifts everyone it touches. So the main lesson I got from our second reading is that everything good and inspiring should be shared freely. The passage from Ephesians offers a powerful reminder of the importance of sharing what is good and inspiring with everyone. But the key isn't just in the sharing, it's in how we share. When we approach others with humility, generosity, and respect, our words and actions have the power to transform. By freely sharing what is good, we create stronger connections. We create a more inclusive world. Everything good and inspiring should be shared freely. Okay, our final reading was from the Gospel of Matthew, and this is a story that is likely familiar to most of us. The story of the Magi following a star to find the baby Jesus is a fascinating tale, but it's important to recognize its mythical nature. Scholars agree that this narrative is not historical, and even the science behind a star leading to a specific location is implausible at best. Yet, like many myths, it holds symbolic meaning that's worth exploring. The Magi's journey represents more than a physical quest. It's a spiritual one. They don't know exactly where they're going, but they trust in their guiding light, and they take bold steps forward. For us, this raises a question. What guides our journey? What lights our path when we're uncertain of the destination? One of the dangers in stories like this is the temptation to let others define our guiding light. Now, throughout history, supernatural claims have often been manipulated for power or control. The Magi's star might symbolize faith in something larger than ourselves, but too often, faith becomes blind allegiance to ideas or institutions that really don't serve our best interests. Instead of putting faith in external interpretations of what we should follow, we should define our own guiding lights and then put our trust in those. What are the values, the goals, or the dreams that motivate us? When we identify these for ourselves, we take control of our journey, and then we can move ahead with intention and with purpose. The story also introduces the challenge of navigating obstacles, like King Herod, who sought to exploit the Magi's journey for his own gain. In life, there are always Herods trying to derail us, people or forces that sow doubt, fear, or breed distraction. The lesson here is to stay true to the light we've chosen to follow, even in the face of adversity. Even when we face our own King Herods. Whether it's justice, compassion, personal growth, or something else, stay committed to our guiding light, and it'll help us overcome challenges. If we stay focused on what truly matters, that's when we'll be able to make more strides in our journey, following our light. The Magi's journey, fictional as it is, reminds us that perseverance and clarity of purpose, those are essential for finding what we seek. So the main lesson I got from our gospel reading is that we need to find our own guiding light. The story of the Magi invites us to reflect on the journeys we're on and what guides us along the way. By identifying our own guiding lights, values, dreams, or goals, we take ownership of our path and we stay grounded in what truly matters. This myth challenges us to follow our light, even when obstacles arise, and to trust in the direction it takes us. But it all starts when we find our own guiding light. All right, let's review the lessons we've talked about so far. In our first reading from Isaiah, the main lesson I came away with was, the light of justice and hope will ultimately attract everyone. In our second reading from Ephesians, the main lesson I got was, Everything good and inspiring should be shared freely. And finally, the main lesson I got from our gospel reading was we need to find our own guiding light. Finding our guiding light is about more than just setting a goal. It's about identifying what truly inspires us and then using that to navigate our lives with purpose. When that light is rooted in values like justice, empathy, or generosity, it becomes a beacon not just for us, but for others too. The key is to embody those values and to share them freely, not with arrogance, not by force, but with humility and with authenticity. A light worth following doesn't demand attention. It simply shines, and it draws others toward it naturally. So by choosing to live in a way that uplifts and inspires, we create a ripple effect that builds stronger connections in a more welcoming, hopeful world. So find your light, follow it boldly, and share it generously, because that's how we light up the darkness for everyone. So let's step back and take another look at these readings overall and see if we can figure out what these messages and meanings and lessons, what they really mean to us in our daily lives. To do this, I'll try to answer two questions. So what, and now what? Okay, so what? Why should we care about any of this? Well, we should care about this because finding your guiding light is one of the most powerful things you can do. Not because it'll make you famous or put you on a stage, but because it gives your life purpose and direction. Most of us won't start a movement or lead a revolution, but that doesn't mean our lights don't matter. In fact, living according to your values in quiet, consistent ways can create a ripple effect that's far more impactful than you might ever imagine. This is important because it means you need to start by identifying your core values. What do you believe in deeply? What principles guide your decisions and shape how you engage with the world? Let's face it, most people are just winging it. You need to do better than that. And it's more than just picking some nice buzzwords. It's about understanding the assumptions behind those values and owning all of that. When you live in alignment with your values, you create a steady, authentic light that others can see and trust. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. We should care about this because your light shines brightest when your words and actions reflect your values. It's not about shouting your beliefs from the rooftops. It's about living them every day. People notice integrity. They notice kindness. And they notice courage in the way that you treat others and handle challenges. This kind of authentic living is magnetic. It quietly attracts and inspires others without needing to demand their attention. We should care about this because although it's important to support and vote for leaders who align with your values, don't underestimate that ripple effect of your personal actions. You might never run for office. Most of us never will. But your choices could inspire someone who does. A young person observing your strength and courage might grow up believing that they can make a difference. The ripple effect is real, and it starts with small, intentional actions. This is important because if enough of us commit to living according to humanistic, compassionate values, our combined lights will shine brilliantly. Yes, it's important to have people leading the way, but it's never about one person doing it alone. It's always about a collective effort to build a better, kinder world. Each individual light adds to the whole. It creates a beacon that can guide others through the darkness. We should care about this because ultimately the question isn't whether your proverbial light is big or small, it's whether you're letting it shine at all. When you find your guiding light and live it authentically, you contribute to something that's a whole lot bigger than yourself. That's how change begins. That's how hope spreads, and that's why we should care. And the last question I try to answer is, now what? What are we supposed to do? Where do we go from here? Well, let's start by remembering that small, everyday actions we take are the ones that make the most difference, both for us and for those around us. Whether it's a kind word, a small act of generosity, or just being present for someone who needs a listening ear. These moments reflect our guiding light, and they inspire others to do the same. Now, I've asked you to think about and identify your core values a lot in past episodes, so I'm not going to do that tonight. Tonight, I'm going to ask you to be a bit more practical. So with that in mind, here's your question for the week. What are 3 small actions you can take this week to live your values and let your light shine for others? Answering this question bridges the gap between knowing your values and living them in practical, everyday ways. It challenges you to think about how your actions can reflect the principles you claim to hold dear, even in the smallest interactions. Look, I know that most of the folks who listen to these Mythologizing the Bible presentations aren't ready to let their light shine by leading the charge or even making grand gestures. And that's absolutely fine. In fact, it's often the simple, everyday actions that inspire others the most. Holding the door open for someone, sharing a kind word with a stressed-out colleague, or being the one who listens when a friend needs support. These small acts show your guiding light in action. If one of your core values is generosity, buy a cup of coffee for a stranger or donate a little extra to a local charity. If kindness is your guiding light, offering a smile or helping a neighbor with yard work, that can brighten someone's day and remind them that simple goodness still does exist in the world. Now, simple actions not only let your metaphorical light shine, they also encourage others to do the same. For Christians, the Feast of the Epiphany reminds them that what they call the good news is meant for everyone. But a more natural message for everyone is that the core values, when lived consciously through our words and actions, they become a guiding light. And that's not something we should keep hidden. It's meant to be shared. When you commit to these small actions, you'll not only strengthen your own connection to your values, but you'll also create that ripple effect, and it'll touch a lot of other people. These simple acts of generosity, of kindness or support, they show the world what matters to you, and they encourage others to carry that light forward in their own lives. By taking these steps, you'll see how even the smallest actions can make a big difference. And you'll build momentum for living your values with purpose and intention. So let your light shine and trust that even the smallest flicker can illuminate the darkness for someone else. Well, before I wrap things up, I'd like to leave you with one more thought. The Buddha once said, "Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened." happiness never decreases by being shared. I think this quote beautifully illustrates the power of sharing our guiding light. It reminds us that when we let our values shine through small acts of kindness, generosity, or support, we don't lose anything. In fact, we gain something profound, the opportunity to inspire and uplift others. The idea that light or happiness grows as it's shared directly ties to this week's question, where we reflect on the small intentional actions we can take to live our lives and let our light shine for others. The importance of this quote lies in its simplicity and its universal truth. Just one candle can light thousands without diminishing its own flame. Our actions can ripple outward, creating moments of hope and connection that really do inspire others to do the same. Whether it's a kind word, a thoughtful gesture, or simply showing up with patience and understanding, every small act adds to the collective light in the world. Answering this week's question is about finding ways to be that candle, intentionally and purposefully. It's about realizing that even the smallest actions rooted in your core values can spark something bigger than yourself. And when you do, you'll see how your light not only guides your own path, but illuminates the way for others as well. All right, we've come to the end of this episode. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back again next week, but in the meantime, I encourage you to engage with our question for the week. And also pay attention to any important lessons you come across, wherever you find them. You'll create a more purposeful and joyful life, and you'll start to feel more connected to the world and the people around you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mythologizing the Bible as we did a deeper dive into the readings for the Feast of the Epiphany, Cycle C of the Roman Catholic Lectionary. Remember that even the smallest flicker can illuminate the darkness for someone else. The Bible readings used for this episode are from the Holy Bible New International Version, NIV, copyright 1973, 1978, 1984, and 2011 by Biblica Inc., used by permission, all rights reserved worldwide. Thank you for listening. If you like this content, please consider telling a friend about it. The more people who hear the positive messages I'm sharing, the better. Mythologizing the Bible is a live-streamed series held most Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/thecodaproject. Every week, the audio of these Mythologizing the Bible presentations is released as a podcast. You can find both the podcast and the video versions of the presentations at thecodaproject.com. CODA stands for Creating Our Divine Alignment. When we learn to align our words and actions with our core values, that alignment feels absolutely exquisite. It feels divine. But it's a divine alignment that doesn't require belief in the supernatural. It's a divine alignment we have the ability to create for ourselves. To learn more, to subscribe to my mailing list, and to keep up on anything I'm doing with the Coda Project, please visit thecodaproject.com.